There is a quiet trap inside creativity. It does not look dangerous at first. It often looks inspiring. It even feels motivating. It says, if I build this well enough, I will finally become someone. If the project succeeds, I will matter. If the idea works, I will be validated. If people respond, I will know who I am. So we begin creating, not just to make something, but to construct ourselves. And that is where energy tightens. Because now the work is no longer just work. It is identity under construction. Look at how early this starts. A child draws something. Someone says, "You're so talented." The drawing was just play. Now it becomes a reflection. You're not just drawing, you're proving. A teenager wins something. Someone says, "You're going places." The effort was just effort. Now it becomes destiny. You're not just trying, you're becoming someone. By adulthood, most of us don't create freely anymore. We create to define ourselves. We write to be a writer. We build to be an entrepreneur. We lead to be a leader. We post to be seen. And slowly, creation becomes heavy. Because it is carrying a person. There is nothing wrong with building. There is nothing wrong with ambition. There is nothing wrong with wanting to improve your life. The issue is not action. The issue is attachment to identity through action. When you create to become someone, you are constantly checking. Is this good enough? Does this represent me well? Will people take me seriously? Is this aligned with who I am trying to be? Every one of those questions drains energy. And suddenly, something that once felt alive begins to feel tight. You hesitate. You overthink. You delay. You polish endlessly. You compare. Not because the project demands it, but because your identity is at stake. Now imagine something different. You are building something. A business idea, a piece of art, a system, a plan for your life. But you are not becoming anyone through it. It is just movement. You are just responding to what feels natural to pursue. If it works, good. If it fails, adjust. If it evolves, let it evolve. You are not using it to define yourself. And because of that, your energy becomes cleaner. You can experiment without fear. You can pivot without shame. You can abandon something without feeling like you abandoned yourself. That is creative freedom. When ego runs creativity, you need consistent reinforcement. You need results to feel stable. You need progress to feel secure. You need feedback to feel valid. And if those things don't arrive fast enough, you stall. But when creativity is not tied to identity, momentum becomes self-sustaining. You don't stop because someone didn't notice. You don't collapse because something underperformed. You don't panic because a competitor did something better. You continue because the work is not proof. It is participation. There is a kind of steady energy that comes from this. It is not manic inspiration. It is not emotional hype. It is not dramatic intensity. It is consistent movement. You wake up. You build. You refine. You release. You repeat. Not because you are trying to become successful, but because you are engaging with what is in front of you. And that engagement feels alive. Let's look at something practical. Imagine starting a new income path. If ego drives it, the thoughts sound like this. This has to work. I can't look foolish. People need to take me seriously. I'm behind. This needs to fix it. Now the project is heavy. Every slow day feels personal. Every obstacle feels like judgment. Every delay feels like exposure. Energy tightens. Now imagine the same project without self-definition. This is an experiment. Let's see how this moves. Let's refine it. Let's adjust pricing. Let's try a new angle. No collapse. No shame. No inner drama. Just iteration. That kind of energy is sustainable. And sustainability builds more than intensity ever will. The mind often argues, but if I don't attach to it, won't I lose drive? Look closely. Is your drive stronger when you are relaxed and clear, or when you are anxious and trying to prove something? Pressure can produce bursts of action, but clarity produces endurance. And endurance wins in the long run. When you create without self-definition, you are less likely to quit. Because quitting doesn't feel like failure. It feels like information. You pivot because something didn't work, not because you failed. You change direction because conditions changed, not because you are unstable. This removes so much psychological weight. There is also something else that happens. When you are not using creativity to construct identity, your work becomes more honest. You are less likely to mimic what is trending, less likely to posture, less likely to exaggerate. You don't need to impress. You need to express. That difference changes tone. People feel when something is built from pressure. They also feel when something is built from grounded engagement. One feels tight, the other feels real. Creating without self-definition does not mean you avoid excellence. It does not mean you lower standards. It means standards are about quality, not self-worth. You still refine your craft. You still improve your systems. You still optimize your processes. But you are not optimizing yourself as a person through it. You are simply improving the work. That separation protects your energy, because you are no longer on the line every time something is evaluated. This becomes especially powerful in long-term projects. When ego is involved, motivation fluctuates wildly. If feedback is high, energy spikes. If feedback is low, energy crashes. But when the work is not tied to identity, motivation becomes less emotional. You don't need constant applause. You need consistency. You don't need validation. You need direction. And direction is easier to maintain than emotional highs. There is something deeply stabilizing about this. You stop reinventing yourself every few months. You stop abandoning projects because they don't immediately define you. You stop searching for the perfect identity to attach to. Instead, you simply build. And building creates clarity over time. Not dramatic clarity, not sudden transformation, but slow refinement. And slow refinement is strong. Let's talk about comparison. Comparison is often identity-driven. When you compare, you are measuring your self-definition against someone else's. They have more. They grew faster. They are ahead. They are recognized. But if your work is not defining you, comparison loses intensity. You can observe without shrinking. You can learn without envying. You can adapt without feeling behind. Because your value is not fluctuating with outcomes. Your value is not under construction. Your projects are. That distinction gives you emotional stability. There is also courage in this way of creating. Because when identity is not involved, you can be direct. You can launch imperfectly. You can test openly. You can say, "This didn't work." There is no collapse, just information. And information is useful. When ego is tied in, information becomes threat. Without ego, information becomes direction. This season is about bringing energy back. And here is something important. Energy returns when resistance drops. If you are constantly trying to become someone through what you build, there is resistance everywhere. Resistance to failure. Resistance to criticism. Resistance to imperfection. Resistance to slow growth. Remove identity from the equation and resistance lowers. When resistance lowers, energy flows. You stop dragging the weight of self-definition. And your actions feel lighter. Not less serious, just less heavy. This also affects how you finish things. When ego drives creativity, you cling. You don't want to let go of projects, because letting go feels like losing identity. But when creation is clean, you can finish cleanly. You can close a chapter without dramatizing it. You can end a project without grief attached to self-worth. You can start something new without needing reinvention. You are not resetting yourself. You are simply shifting focus. That is healthy momentum. There is something deeply liberating here. You are allowed to build without becoming. You are allowed to succeed without expanding your identity. You are allowed to fail without shrinking. You are allowed to experiment without narrating the experiment. You are allowed to move forward without explaining yourself. That permission alone frees energy, because so much exhaustion comes from managing how your actions reflect on you. Imagine not doing that. Imagine simply building well, quietly, consistently, without self-construction. That is strong. And here is the subtle truth. When you stop trying to become someone through your work, you often become more capable. Because your attention is no longer split. You are not monitoring yourself while creating. You are creating. Full presence increases quality. Reduced self-consciousness increases precision. This is why some of your best work in life happened when you forgot about yourself. You weren't trying to become impressive. You were immersed. That immersion is available again, but it requires releasing identity from the process. This does not make you invisible. It makes you stable. It does not reduce ambition. It refines it. It does not eliminate goals. It removes the emotional volatility attached to them. And from here, momentum builds naturally. Because nothing inside is bracing for evaluation. You are free to build. This is the pulse of Season 8. Alive, engaged, creating, but not constructing a persona through it. You are not your projects. You are not your success. You are not your failures. You are not the roles you temporarily occupy. You are the one moving. And movement is enough. If this episode shifted how you see what you're building right now, stay with the season. Season 8 is about power without self-construction. If you want to go deeper, the book series is linked below. And if you know someone who keeps quitting because everything feels personal, send this to them. Sometimes what we need isn't more motivation. It's less identity attached to action. We continue in episode 3.